What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with the first of a two-part video that I'm doing. As you guys may know through the community tab on my YouTube page, if you're watching this video, I am currently on vacation at the time you're checking this video out. This and part 2 was recorded on July 21st, so I managed to get 2 videos out for you guys to check out while I was away. So that way I'm not leaving everybody hanging for over a week. So, I thought, okay, what could I talk about for 2 different videos during my vacation? And I thought, well, I haven't done a video on this subject yet, and this is the reason why it's a 2-parter. It's because they're each going to be for 10 different albums. So this topic is 20 badass metal album covers. And not necessarily like my favorites, although quite a few of these are among my favorite album covers ever. But I wanted to present to you 20 album covers that I think are badass and cool for metal. And basically the reason why it's 2 parts, because we're going to do 10 for today and 10 for the part 2 video on Thursday. So that way you get more coming out of this video. Because I initially thought I was going to do 10, but I thought, I got so many albums that have great covers, so how about we do 20? And let's do 2 videos and just milk the shit out of this. So basically, we're going to do part 1 here for the first half, and then we'll do part 2 for the second half. So to kick things off, and these are all going to be in alphabetical order, so not necessarily a random order, I'm doing it in alphabetical. And we're going to kick things off with Asphyx Last One on Earth. Now, granted, this version of the cover's the reissue from Century Media. The original cover, it's like a little bit less monochrome and the logo was red, but still, even the reissue cover's still really good. Basically, it's simple, but it's impactful and badass with a zombie priest with a cross. I mean, I did talk about during my Asphyx ranking of like how Martin Van Drunen wasn't so into like the occult side of the early days of Asphyx. This was maybe the closest to that era that Martin was a part of because of this album cover here. I mean, just look at it up close. That's a really interesting visual. You got a zombie priest with a cross and a cross in the shadow in the background, definitely capturing like a dark, murky, brooding vibe, especially when laced on top of the music. Like, this is a perfect cover to embellish and complement the music on this album. And I talked about this album at length during my Asphyx album ranking last week, which, if you guys haven't checked out that video, go check it out. It's a great video. But yeah, the first one to showcase is Asphyx Last One on Earth. Now, the next one, now we're going to get into some of the Bs, and what I mean is bands that start with the letter B, and first we've got Bathory Bloodfire Death. Now, this version is the Craze Records reissue, though I'm thinking about getting rid of this and getting the Black Mark Productions version because the logo's a little bit more intelligible. But the actual artwork with, like, all the Viking horses and battles and weapons and stuff, I mean, it definitely captured the vibe and the sound that this album was going for, and especially with tracks like A Fine Day to Die and the title track with those more folky, doomy tracks that signaled where they would go with the Viking era of Bathory. But yeah, and it even complements the thrash tracks because it's like right there, that's a battle, and a lot of these songs feel like you're in a battle. So I think this is a perfect complement to the music as far as the album goes. So yeah, love this cover as well. Next up, and I think, no, I got one that's more recent than this, but one of the latest CDs that I have in my collection with a badass album cover that I'm showcasing is Bellwich Mirror Reaper. Now, granted, I'm not super into Funeral Doom because, for me, if you're going to be Funeral Doom, you have to do it in a way that captures me. And not a lot of Funeral Doom captures me in any way. This album, however, did capture me, and also that album cover of what looks like like a man coming through another dimension through the mirror. Perhaps it's supposed to be like an alternate version of the Reaper himself. But this album cover definitely, just like, and basically like all these covers I'm going to be talking about across these two videos, definitely captured the mood that the albums portray. Like here with this being Funeral Doom, it's very somber, aggressive, proggy, dark, haunting, melancholic. I mean, I could list every adjective in the book to describe this album cover towards the music. So yeah, Bellwich, Mirror, Reaper. I can't roll my R's today for some reason. Next up we get, now whenever you talk about badass metal album covers, you really can't do this list without mentioning Bolt Thrower. Because Bolt Thrower have had tons of great album covers. However, for me, my personal favorite would be my favorite album from Bolt Thrower, spoiler alert for an eventual ranking, The Fourth Crusade. I absolutely love this album cover because it's supposed to be the capturing of the Fourth Crusade of Constantinople, and this album has some songs themed to that. But yeah, the album cover definitely captures the vibe of this album for sure, especially when you consider where Bolt Thrower went at this point in time. Like, they started to embrace a little bit of doom metal, but not quite a death doom band. Like, this is like a proto-death doom album, but still very much old school, groovy death metal. And that album cover, I mean, captures the vibe of Bolt Thrower as a whole. We have songs about war and destruction and more war and pain. But yeah, really cool cover here. Maybe my favorite Bolt Thrower album cover, period. Now that we're out of the B's, let's get into a couple of C's. First, another band I honestly think you can't do a like badass metal album covers video without talking about Cannibal Corpse. And there are quite a few Cannibal Corpse album covers I could list on here. I could have went with Eaten Back to Life. Could have went with Tomb of the Mutilated. Could have went with Gallery of Suicide. Could have went with Wretched Spawn. Could have went with Torture. However, I think for me, the best Cannibal Corpse album cover, hands down, Butchered at Birth. I mean, after all, this was the cover that eventually got them censored across the globe. You know, like, especially in Germany and Australia. And, or actually, no, not Australia, New Zealand. But, yeah, I mean, just look at that. 2 zombie butchers dissecting a pregnant woman. It's just brutal imagery, which is what you want out of a band like Cannibal Corpse. You don't want any pussified garbage. You want something gory. You want something completely over the top. And this album cover certainly captures the brutality of this album. This is when Cannibal Corpse really became a brutal band. Like, Eaten Back to Life was a heavy death thrash album. Here, this was when they went full-on brutal death metal. And the album cover certainly captures what the music is telling you. So yeah, Butchered at Birth by a Cannibal Corpse. Then the next one of the C, and this one, I feel like I could have left this one off, but the more I thought about it and looking at the cover now, it's like I can't do this list without bringing up this album cover, and that's Celtic Frost to Megatherion. After all, it's a painting. It's a really cool painting. The Jesus painting, or the Satan painting from H.R. Giger, who eventually Tom Moore would work for until H.R. passed away in like 2014, I want to say. But yeah, this album cover, in my opinion, out of all the H.R. Giger album covers that he's done for metal, I think he did, after this, he did like Carcass Heartwork, and he did, I want to say he did Monotheist, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I know he did do the 2 Triptychon studio album covers, and those are really, really fascinating. But I think the most iconic one is this, To Megatherion. I mean, that imagery of Satan holding Jesus, using him as like a slingshot. I mean, cool imagery, despite your differences on religious opinion. Still, you gotta admit, the album cover looks badass for what this album was going for in terms of darkness and depth and experimentation. So yeah, Celtic Frost to Megatherion. Past the halfway point, next up, now here's another band I feel like you can't do this list without, and that's Death. And really, all their album covers I could mention in this video. After all, like, every cover that they put out has been so cool for different reasons, whether it was over-the-top imagery, or the theme of the album, or the paintings themselves. For me, in my opinion, the best Death album cover for me is Scream Bloody Gore, the very first album. After all, it's like, this is an image I associate with pretty much all death metal. Like skeletons, zombies, eating bones, drinking blood, eating flesh on a throne. It just looks so cool. And I believe Ed Repka did this cover. I want to say it was Ed Repka. I know he did do Leprosy and Spiritual Healing afterwards, but I'm fairly certain Ed Repka did this cover. And if so, this is one of his best works. Like, holy shit. Because, I mean, just the colors and the overall vibe of it, and it certainly helps capture the music. Like, it matches perfectly with the music for it being, like, fast and furious death metal with some great doom pockets, some cool grooves, some technical moments, and the album cover accentuates the music, just like any album cover should. For the most part, there have been some album covers that were not great, but the music was fantastic. This is a combination of both. Great music, great cover, nothing more, nothing less. Next up, for the 8th cover we're going to be talking about, and this is where the list started to get a little bit difficult for me, because, like I said, I just got so many I could show off, but I'm only limiting myself to 20. But this album cover I absolutely adore, as well as the album itself. Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane. My favorite Dissection album, and in my opinion, the best album cover, because it kind of captures both black metal and death metal vibes, because you got, like, the Lord of the Rings-esque, like, mountains and stuff that gives off that black metal feel, and then you got, like, the Reaper with his scythe on a horse getting ready to kill somebody and take their soul. That's very much death metal. So this album cover almost feels like the perfect amalgamation of both genres. Granted, the music is about 50-50 black metal and melodic death metal, and the album cover's definitely like a perfect, what's the word that I'm looking for? The perfect encapsulation. That's the word I was looking for. The perfect encapsulation to what this album offers musically. So yeah, Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane, I would say, is a badass cover, and the up close. And again, the whole, like, purple aesthetic, even though on camera it comes off more blue, and that's because the camera is kind of being stupid. But still, fucking great, eerie looking, dark. What more can I say? And in a similar vein, we're going to talk about Emperor in the Nightside Eclipse. I believe this album cover was done by Christian Wallen, who was a musician with Thomas Lindbergh from At the Gates and the band Grotesque, and he's also a great album cover guy, and he's done so many great album covers. I would say, arguably, this is the best one, because, I mean, look at all the different things going on. You know, mountains, castles, warriors. Like, definitely, like, a perfect version of, like, a dark Lord of the Rings kind of thing. And, of course, Emperor being one of the leaders of Norwegian black metal. And that this album, I keep saying it, and I'll say it again. This, next to Dark Throne, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, I would say are the two best Norwegian black metal albums ever made. Bar none. For different reasons, you know, Emperor being that more bombastic, epic, progressive, symphonic thing, and then Dark Throne, stripped down, raw, rockin', just total contrast, and also even the Blazing Northern Sky album cover I could have brought up here because of how simplistic it is, but how iconic it is. But with Emperor, I mean, with this cover, with all the different things going on, how could you not include this on this list? Of course, just my opinion, but yeah, I mean, just look at it. And again, the purple aesthetic, giving it that eerie feeling. And of course, when you listen to the music, it matches the cover perfectly. It's epic. There you go. That's all I gotta say. And then the final album cover I wanted to touch on for this episode, then we'll talk about 10 more in part 2 coming up in a couple of days. But the last one I wanted to showcase for part 2, or not part 2, part 1, Entombed Left Hand Path. And this gets into another legendary cover artist in metal, and that's the one and only Dan Seagrave. And I pretty much love all of Dan Seagrave's album covers, although in my opinion, I think this is the best one he ever did for Left Hand Path. I mean, kind of similar to Emperor in that there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, you got like a headstone with what looks like lava coming out, like a eerie river with like a trail, some creepy faces that look like souls. I mean, it just captures the vibe of the album, and the album itself, without question, top 3 death metal album, period. If you say anything different, you're wrong, because this album is a masterpiece still to this day, and the album cover perfectly captures the vibe of the music. It's raw, it's lo-fi, it's melodic, melancholic at times, heavy, aggressive. Hiccups. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the album cover. Flowing lava out of a tombstone, a trail, dark river or lake or pond, whatever. It's a body of water. Trees, souls. It's just wow. And actually, well, this version doesn't have the classic back cover of the band standing by a cross, but that would help it a lot more. But yeah, this is a hell of a cover and a hell of an album. And that does it for part 1 of my 20 badass metal album covers. Part 2 will be coming up on Thursday. But what did you guys think of these covers I showed off? Which one out of these 10 was your favorite? And of course, let me know in the comment section below what album cover is your favorite in metal history. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Stick around for part 2 on Thursday. But until then, horns high. See you guys soon. Better go in hell. What? Oh my god! That was a fail! Oh my god! Fuck that! Oh my god, I am such an idiot! That was the dumbest thing I've ever done in this fucking game! Why? What was that? Was I colorblind for a second? What was that?